forgot Stephen had left too.
We can start without Stephen, but we can't have a meeting without Brenda.
It's blessedly warm in here.
I'm working the office by myself.
I'm holding a coffee cup.
We are going to start with trustee input and celebrations, and we'll start with the person that Ida, who was glad to sit at the table with us tonight.
I'm glad to be back, and I'd like to thank you for the flower basket. It was very nice. And I really haven't gone anywhere because I was self-isolating myself while I had returned home.
Alrighty, guess next I did visiting around to some schools, see how everybody was doing, make sure everybody was okay. Went out to Ambrose, went up to the high school, and down to the LC. Other than that, Friday I went to the reverse parade. Check that out. That's what it. And sorry, went to the sports council meeting.
Okay.
Which I'll talk to you a little later. Information.
Okay, that sounds good. All right, and Erin.
I went to the SUPEC meeting. I guess it was the last one of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I haven't visited, well, schools besides Bowes and Central, but they're not my schools. But and I've been emailing instead of visiting. I just, yeah, I don't know. Not that I'm concerned about insurance, but yeah, hesitant.
Well, and you never know what reaction you're going to get from people right now, too.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm gonna interject and say, can I go next?
Yeah.
Oh, you were doing an order. Oh, you're doing a
Well, Leah has her minutes set up in order, and we were trying to go in order.
Okay, I thought you were going around the table and just completely missing.
No, so, all right, Nicole.
Okay, well, I've just checked in with, I've just been physically at the school with myself a few times. Both my kids are back there and I've been. For their grad ceremony, I've sent a little speech to be read on behalf of us. Derek's just gonna read it. I could have done a video, but I'm just gonna have him read it. They're going ahead with a fairly decent grad situation, like comparatively. I think each grad gets 5 invitations. That includes the grads. So they can bring 4 people with them. So you do have some families, one sibling's had to kind of say you go, and but it's still a better situation, you know, and it's still the regular grad meal and, you know, lots of the, not the meal, but so they all seem content. And today they sent out their plaques for their elementary kids, and all I've been up to.
Madeline.
Not much up to other than Army. I have some, I do have a ELC connections with asparagus, so they got some bunch dropped off. And every time you drop off, somebody else goes, oh, I would like some too. Okay, next time. But yeah, it kept up. I saw the graph. I thought that was well done. I appreciated the article.
And David.
I've been in regular contact with my administrators, a couple of meetings up at 101 and one out at a upper halfway school recently. All went very well, and the transition to the next phase was seemed to be handled quite nicely by the administrators. Very thankful for them all.
So my turn, just to keep you in the loop, I've continued some of our advocacy work. Brad Sperling, who is from the Peace River Regional District, had a request to meet with Minister Fleming regarding teacher recruitment and retention. And so he met with myself and Wade Hart and Crystal from HR. And so we were able to advocate based on our resolutions around that. And he was going to take our information back to his meeting with Minister Fleming. Bert Bowe's PAC, I was quite pleased when I was at their Zoom meeting online. They have 2 people that have been very key in the PAC moving on, but they really have got an active recruitment drive on to welcome the grade 7 parents and keep their pack moving along. And they're very excited about the number. They have 25 grants out regarding the track, and they're starting to get some money to roll in with that. And had we been able to have a district track meet this year, there is no pool of water on the left corner of the track. The elevation is up and that work is done, and they're quite excited about that. Margaret Murray did their Festival of Colors with their mandalas. Barb Daly came and painted one with the kids, which was quite exciting, as well as they had done a rainbow sidewalk with positive affirmations on it. The positive affirmations on it are linked to the book, which is a new Peter Reynolds book called BU that will be their focus for building community in the first week of September. My granddaughter received her welcome to kindergarten bag from Beldonnell, and I might be sad that we're not doing traditional welcome to kindergartens, but she was excited as any other little person I've seen to get those bags. So schools are doing a wonderful job of trying to bring some of those continuity of celebrations, and that leads to, I did do an online graduation speech for North Peace, and I really want to say a huge thank you to our North Peace staff, because I think the work and effort they put into having something be meaningful and special for their students was huge. I was in 101 and Upper Halfway and missed the parade, but by all reports, it was a very nice event, and we have lots to be thankful for and celebrate in our district. We just signed those LEA agreements and warm up. So moving on, we're at 5.0 on our agenda, and we're looking for minutes of the regular board meeting May the 25th, and that is pages 6 to 13 in your agenda package. If I could have somebody, thank you, Aaron, somebody, Bill, first and second. Are there any errors or omissions noted in those minutes? Call the question. All in favor? Thank you, David. With us. Business arising from the minutes. So you should have seen a list of action items. Some of them I didn't get to. Leah, of mine are done, but financial overview and lobbying government regarding international students, that is done with our local MLA. We've got the Zoom etiquette information done. I forgot to send out a script, but I'll do that at the end of the meeting. And the letter to the Minister of Education regarding grade 6 density was done, and I did circulate a copy of that to you. Is there any other things on our action items that we need to bring forward? We will deal with policy 4000.1 role of the superintendent under section 3, and we will deal with the provincial budget consultation as an action item later on. So we'll move on to 6.0, approval of excerpts of the regular board meeting April the 20th, which was page 14 in the agenda package. And I have someone, Madeline, and then Aaron. Any errors or omissions? All in favor? So that is carried. 7.0, announcements and reminders. We do have confirmed that we do have a meeting with Moberly Lake. So we need to put that date on there, and I think it's July the
Yeah. It's in 2 weeks, yeah.
July the 8th.
10 to 11:30, right?
So we'll put that on there.
And that'll be here.
That is, it is here.
Or via Zoom.
Or via Zoom. It'll be set up both ways. We did let people know that our boardroom could handle so many. Also, we'll add to that we have a meeting in the evening on July the 9th with the 101 to continue building the concept plan related to a replacement school.
July 9th.
9th, yeah. I think, did we say 6:30 or 7, Brenda? 6:30.
Is that here?
No, that will be in 101.
And is that for just your committee or for all?
It's a community meeting. Yes. So
So who goes to that? That go, like the community, everybody invited, promoted that community's invited? Is that how that would work?
So, and I mean, I think David's intention would be to attend. I will attend. I honestly don't think at a community meeting, it hurts if there's anybody else that wants to go out to 101 for as much representation as possible. Just so that we're aware and show the community that it is the board that is interested in looking at. We could carpool. Vroom, vroom, vroom. So, are there any other announcements and reminders that we should be putting in there? All right, we'll move on to H1J Senior Staff Report. Stephen.
Thank you, Chair. Leah, would you mind shutting off one or two of the lights so we can get right in here? Okay, thank you. Pleased to report the items here in the superintendent's report. First of all, just a reminder to trustees and the public that there are several updates on our website, district website, in terms of COVID-19, but wanted to speak to a couple of things specifically in terms of COVID and preparation for September. First of all, we're not expecting an announcement from the Public Health Office and the Ministry of Education until August, pardon me, in terms of which stage we'll be at for September startup. A reminder, and in this graphic here below, what the 5 stages are. We are currently in stage 3, and we're planning to be in stage 1 for September, but we'll be prepared for whether it's stage 1, 2, or 3, or whatever the public health officer tells us what stage we're going to be in. Also, just to show you that our attendance is pretty much following the same pattern in terms of 50 to 55% of our elementary students attending and about 30% or so of our secondary. And so those, the graph that you see is for the last 3 weeks. Under our framework for enhancing student learning, this month I'm profiling the district band program, and trustees and the public can check out the awards that were handed out for the year-end band awards. And so they did a really good job of doing that sort of virtually, still having fun, recognizing the kids and recording all of it. So there are videos for each of the different sections of awards. So congratulations to all our students. And just to remind the trustees that the board has been very good in supporting the band program in School District 60. Not every district has a band program. Under Human and Social Development, along with our Director of Instruction, Carlene Andrews, and other resources that have been shared around the province, she's put together how to promote social and emotional learning with students when we do the startup. So both when we started here a couple of weeks ago, as well as for September. So I encourage the public to download that and have a read. As trustees will know, our Career and Skilled Careers Department has been putting out some videos on projects for students, but also what's quite exciting is in talking with our principal of careers, we are partnering with the public library And the district has put together about 20 kits, home kits that can be signed out from the public library and can be done in conjunction with the videos that are being made. After that point, the library is then responsible for those kits and will take over that process. But collectively, we collaborated to put this together. And there's another video from Monica's Makerspace if you're looking for some things to do at home. And after my report, there will be an opportunity to pass a motion to approve all of these locally developed courses. On to operations and HR. Our district is partnered and has a membership with what's called LifeSpeak, and that's a regular resource and email that goes out to all staff where they can log in and access videos, documentation, articles, that sort of thing in terms of just well-being, health, and their health and well-being overall. Bit of an update on recruiting. So most positions have been filled. We're planning on bringing in 21 new teachers. I think it's up to now 23 actually from outside our region and outside our province. We've checked in with every single one of those teachers, and I think there's only one that's having a hard time selling their house from where they currently live. Otherwise, they're all still planning on being here and are looking forward to working for Peace River North. Under Truth and Reconciliation, I just wanted to point out that yesterday was National Indigenous Peoples Day. And so you can click on the link there to see how that is celebrated across the country. And you may have seen some recent reports on that. And of course, as you know, we were outside. Oh, and have a look. We have some pictures here already incorporated into the report. And our chair, Helen Gilbert, who signed the agreements with the Doig River First Nation and the Halfway River First Nation. It's very exciting. I want to also thank our Director of Instruction, Carlene Andrews, who over the past year has been meeting with those bands and putting together the process to have these signed tonight. And here's a picture of the agreement signed with the Halfway River First Nation. So congratulations to the trustees and the board on that. Final piece under Truth and Reconciliation is a really neat resource that was put together for children. It's called the Dedeza Coloring Book, and you can click on the link there and share that out and download it. Finally, as always, we have our Take 3 celebrations from around the district. I'll let people read through that paragraph that explains kind of the neat food security project that they did at Montmurray. And there's some pictures there to go along with it. The building of the plant squares. I can't remember what they called it exactly. Food cubes. Also, just a testimonial from one of our essential services workers' families, thanking the district for the support that we were able to organize for their children during the COVID pandemic. And here's one from Charlie Lake Elementary. All along, they were putting out videos from their administration. The parents really appreciated that. And this one was when they were first coming back for stage 3. So they put out how excited they were to welcome the kids back to the school. So I encourage you to have a listen to that video as well. Bert Ambrose also had people out to adopt a garden bed on their school grounds. And so you can check out a picture there on that one. And that is my report, Chair.
Hold would like to move. Seconder, Bill got his hand up and down first. We will pull out a motion related to the BAA courses. Before we do that, are there any discussion or questions related to the report? Other than Aaron?
Well, Aaron could have gone first. I just want to say that, and I think this is the appropriate time to say it, Stephen, is I am overwhelmed with the work that the staff has done. Like, we have Strong Start in Taylor, and she continued going to every household, dropping off a little bag every Monday morning, because that's when the Strong Start kids would have been in there. And she just knocked on the door and left a little craft and stuff from teachers that went way far and beyond, making sure the kids that needed some help got some help. And I just think that, you know, I've been isolating myself the last little while. So I've clicked onto all of these. And I just want to say that it's incredible the videos that are out there to watch what has inspired me in this district. And I just wanted to say that. And I thought your report would be the time to say it.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Ida.
Yeah.
I guess my question is to the teachers coming in from out of district. I'm gonna beat the TRB horse here. Where is that going with their qualifications for coming into BC? And do we foresee any issues and challenges around that where that might mean that they can't stay here long term?
Good question. Thank you. I'm afraid I don't have the breakdown of all of the out of town or out of region or province candidates that are coming in. But they'll be working very closely with Crystal and Wade from our HR department to manage some of that. And I do know that several of them do have their BC certification already. So it'll be a matter of working with the ones that they want. And I'm hoping the delays will not be as long as they were in the past.
Brad Sperling from Peace River Regional District was very whoa when we discussed the TRB, and he said, well, that might not have been something that, you know, was on the list, but it definitely relates to recruitment and retention. And I'll be bringing that up as well. So that was good news. Any other questions related to the report?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thanks, David.
Stephen, are we going to be trying to do something similar with TED on onboarding these teachers like we did last year?
Great question, David. Thank you. And the Dina in our HR department is proceeding with a plan for orientation of new teachers. We're just trying to figure out what that's going to look like, depending on the new rules or any new guidelines that come out. But with the number that's a bit smaller than last year, we're hoping to still do like a bus tour where there's still enough physical distance on the bus, still having a welcome event happening, but probably staggered in time. And so that orientation will continue, but in creative ways.
Any other questions? All right. All in favor of accepting Stephen's report as presented? Checked on you, David, so it's carried. Could I please have somebody make a motion that the board approve the attached EAA courses that were listed in the report? Aaron, then Bill? All in favor?
Can I ask one question? Yeah. When we approve them, it doesn't necessarily mean they're gonna go, right? You need the enrollment to have them go? Okay, just checking. Yeah, they all look great, but I figured we can't have them. Okay.
I think that astronomy one might be right up your daughter's alley.
Yeah.
All in favor? Moving on then to 8.2, the Secretary Treasurer's Report.
Thank you, Chair. So first item on my report is the financial overview to May 31st, 2020. So the financial report is attached. So you can see from the report that overall our operating revenue was $61,698,420. Operating expenses total $60,980,008. And then when we add the capital purchases from operating of $22,169,954, that leaves a net operating expense of $1,451,542 at this point in the year. So this is very much in line with our amended annual budget and our projections for the year that we had updated in February, and it seems like we will be requiring the application of surplus to balance our financial statements at the end of June. Next item on my report is the human resources staff summary. So this identifies the assignments, changes, returns from leaves, layoffs, and retirements in our QP workforce. And that is my report.
And I have somebody please move that we accept the report. Bill? Natalie? I don't think there's any motion, any questions of Brenda at this time. All the questions, all in favor? Carried. Reports 9.0, reports of the regular committee of the whole meeting June the 8th, 2020. So I'm looking for approval of the minutes, page 17 to 19 in your package. Moved by Aaron, seconded by Nicole. Are there any errors or omissions? Question then, all in favor? Carried. Business arising from the minutes. Okay. Let's go back to the action items. So COVID-19 stage 3 action item page 18 was covered in the superintendent's report. Anything to add there? You know where we don't know where we're headed for September, but we've got it all covered. The annual facilities grant is attachment, and it was page 19 in the agenda. Are there any questions related to the annual facilities grant? No questions? All right. Moving on to, sorry, Nicole.
Okay, so I do have one, just when you go through, so we applied for all these. We don't get them all, but I'm just wondering about the Camera Lake Outdoor Ed site for the water system upgrade. You're asking for that again?
So, I'm sorry, to clarify, so the annual facility grant is, the funding was announced in April, so the district has already been allocated the $1.4 million. And what is required in order for the ministry to provide the money to the district is a spending plan of it. So there's a bit more work to do on the Cameron Lake. Well, it was built last summer to complete off the project this summer. So that would be a portion of the 1.4 million that we plan on spending out there this summer.
Okay. When it says VFA requirement, what does that stand for?
So VFA is a numbering system that the ministry has to kind of identify the type of improvements that have been made, and that those numbers flow into the facility condition index that you saw represented in our long-range facility plan. So it's an identifier.
Right, somebody comes up and does them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, this is sounding familiar, right, okay.
Any other questions? The draft annual budget is actually agenda item number 13. So we'll move on to 9.3 policy committee. And thank you, Aaron, for your work on that. Could I have a motion that policy number 4001, role of the superintendent, CEO, be adopted as presented? Moved by Aaron, seconded by Madeline. I know, but it's gonna happen. I'm calling the question now. Any further discussion related to this amazing piece of work? All in favor then, I'm calling the question. Thank you. Other reports. Erin, would you like to start for the BCSTA?
Oh, is it my turn already? Yeah, so I just have to pull it up here. There is a BCSTA is inviting all trustees to a Zoom meeting hosted by the board of directors, focused really Q&A session. The agenda is going to be sent out, I guess, next week or this week. Really just about a discussion on the schools reopening in September, and then an overview of BCST's fall events. I know that they're looking, I've already kind of been invited to the provincial council, which will be by Zoom. And then they haven't 100% made a decision, as far as I know, unless you're aware of something, Helen, that I'm not, that the learning academy, the trustee academy in the fall, in December, November, December, they're still planning on it being face-to-face, as far as I know.
I'm not sure. I think they may be moving to smaller, they're coming up with a contingency plan.
Yeah.
And I think there's further information to come on that. They may move to smaller localized regional meetings.
That's right, yeah.
Face-to-face still is,
Who knows?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so far that's kind of what's going on with that.
When is that meeting?
We have a deadline? Thursday, the 25th, from 4 to 5:30.
4 to 5:30, and one of the things I was going to ask is if there's any desire to book this room Zoom and have us together as a group, or do you want to do it from wherever you're at?
I'm gonna have to do it from home.
Me too. I am. Now, would this be the opportunity, like, they're gonna tell us the same thing that you just told us about September, that the ministry is not making a call till August, and is there any sense talking or asking about the K-6?
I think we can ask, ask it, and I think what'll happen is everybody will forward the questions. The other big question out there is whether there's going to be any revision to the phases. And we know that June short-term worked to when we had people doing both online and in classroom. But there's a real concern that if you're reading things throughout the province, that that is not a model that can be extended for a long period of time. And so I think that is something that they are hoping to get addressed because it is a concern.
Well, and it puts a lot of pressure on the infrastructure too, because I even noticed with the college, you know, when everybody's online, it slows everything down, and you tend to have more periods of pausing and, you know, stopping, and yeah, it's really slow. Yeah.
So you have an opportunity to submit questions. I don't know if there's any we want to 100% submitted on behalf of the board, but
Your provincial council, you said that's gonna be Zoom. How many, there's not that many of you. Well, I guess there's 60 districts, so that's too many. Yeah, okay.
Well, we did it before in the spring, and you know, instead of the AGM, we had a provincial council to pass the budget. And it was fine. They did
Like just
pretty much all
via
60.
Zoom, you mean?
Yeah, via Zoom, and they actually did a reverse voting system. So unless they felt that it was really controversial, would they then take roll call to vote? But typically it was unless you're in opposition. So nobody opposed the budget or anything, so.
and I think that the other thing that they've committed to do prior to provincial council is to come back to anybody that had resolutions that
Motions
were
and
going
resolutions, yeah.
forward to the AGM to see if we still want them to go forward.
Yeah.
The Ledge Committee is doing some work on that, and I'm assuming they will get back to Aaron and ask what we want to happen with our motions.
I haven't heard from them yet.
So I think that is in the works.
And they're working on a plan for, to bring those forward for provincial council, probably at the fall meeting, and how that's gonna look.
NIB is connected to the BCSTA, and right now I'm serving on an ad hoc committee where we are reviewing the constitution and bylaws for the NIB and also the growth plan. And we have had one kind of initial parameter setting meeting. And I have many questions out of that meeting for our historian, Linda Dolan and Ida Campbell, and I'll have the opportunity this week to be present with both of them. So I will let, it's Tony Goulet that's chairing it. I will let Tony know that I'll pose some of the questions that we had related to the documents in front of us there. So. BCPC, no news from them. Anything that's come my way, I have forwarded to you. Correspondence. I don't think we have any. So the 2021-2022 capital plan is the next thing on the agenda. Any questions, discussions, anything related to that capital plan? Oh, I know what this is. Yeah, I know. I was just gonna, you can have it.
I'm just wondering if it's the same as, so on the addition of Upper Halfway School Gym and then the new school Northwest Middle, it has the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I think the reasoning is wrong there.
The reasoning
Okay.
is something. That's why I
Oh, it
told
must
that
have
in
just-
my other
You
part.
just repeated the reasoning for
It
the Upper
repeated
Halfway.
the reasoning, and so
It must have just,
I don't
Automatically
know if it's
generated.
been submitted, but I picked that up
no,
too.
it's not submitted until the board.
Approves it, so
yes.
you might.
I think it's just, yes, we'll fix that.
So it's supposed to say for the top one, the school has a current enrollment 52 with a predominant what?
Predominantly Indigenous population.
Okay. And then the Northwest Middle will just be that
So
we're
the
currently,
Northwest-
we need one.
Yeah.
I don't know how you, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I had pulled it because I noticed the same thing. Right. So, Aaron?
I have a question about the central. Why is I know that this has been on our capital plan since time immemorial, probably since before Ida was on the board, but why is the cost the same as Charlie Lake when it's looking at two different types of replacement?
So, we used the cost that the ministry approved for Ann Roberts Young. And this is just the initial identifying the project on our capital plan. So it's so basically the ministry instructed us to update the numbers. They used to say 26 million last year, but now we have them at the 31 million due to the escalation in the difference between Montmurray and Roberts Young. But if we got approval to go to the next stage or closer to a funding announcement, then we would of course update that to the current projected estimated costs there would be.
Can we say something when we're about earthquakes?
Like some of the seismic money?
Well, we do have seismic activity up here.
Actually, what's in the headers, but I'm assuming.
Sorry, yeah, I should have expanded the line so you could read the whole section that's there.
But I assume that the ones are top priorities. The 2 is lesser and the 3 is.
And CEP, like some of the acronyms.
So that the CNCP
Yeah.
is carbon neutral capital program.
Okay.
So,
So there's funding in order to make yourself
yes.
more efficient. Okay.
And so they've expanded that area of the capital funding in recognition that greening is important.
And SEP?
So that's the school enhancement
Right, okay, yeah.
program. So that's that program has been in place for about 4 or 5 years, and it's really been the opportunity for the district to do those HVAC upgrades or some of those larger projects that we just couldn't fund through the annual facility grant or any other needs.
So when you're making this, like, how do you decide that the number 1 priority in the SEP is the universal access washroom at Kearney rather than the Bird Ambrose? Exterior, like, is that just it? Do the bathrooms need to be redone so we'll make them universal, or is the priority to make them universal?
Well,
You know what I mean?
we made that a number 1 priority, actually, thinking about the COVID environment. So we were starting to think that a lot of our washrooms don't have touchless mechanisms. So we wanted to start doing replacements of fixtures for touchless.
So I guess my question is the priority does Dr. Kearney need new washrooms? So if we ever make a new washroom, we're gonna make it universal access?
Yes.
Or is the priority just to make it universal? Do you know what I mean? Like, okay, so you wouldn't do one, like you wouldn't do a universal if you had a brand new bathroom. You'd wait till it needed to be redone, the bathroom, right?
So a number of the schools, they really do like the universal design of the washrooms. That is really, we seem to have gotten past the concerns around that design. And it's very popular with administrators. So every school would like to have those type of washrooms. So we'll put one in the plan as often as we can to upgrade the washrooms to that type of design, and also to focus on touchless fixtures throughout the district. I'm sorry, did that answer?
Not really. So what I'm asking is, I don't want to see us replacing perfectly good bathrooms just to make them
Oh,
universal.
no, they definitely need a washroom.
Okay, that's my question.
Sorry.
So we're gonna make them
I
universal as we
Yes.
replace the, okay.
Yes, just like we did with Taylor. So
Yes,
They
okay.
needed a washroom upgrade, but we made it universal. design.
Okay, that was my
Yes.
question.
Allen Hall.
Yes, okay.
Yes,
Yep, that does answer then.
I apologize.
Okay. Must be gold. Any other questions? Great. Could I please have a
So
motion?
should I just, one more thing I wanted to say, that this is just our ask. This isn't, we're not getting this $149 million worth of funding. As much as we would like, this is our hope and dreams, and our number 1 priorities. We
Yeah.
may get some of the funding, we may not.
We'll get $5 for coffee at Starbucks.
Yeah.
Which won't even pay for coffee at Starbucks.
Close tonight, are we in? Okay. So could I?
You're not vibing with Ida's new positive outlook. She, Ida. No.
Good job, Steph.
Can I please have a motion to approve the plan for submission? Moved by Bill, seconded by David. All in favor? Carried. Moving on, we're going to take a look at our annual budget.
Turning the projector on. there is a copy in your board packages of the presentation for the budget. Interesting, on my screen it's showing it as a full presentation and on there it's not, but hopefully everyone will be able to see as I move through this one. So this is our preliminary annual budget for 2021. So it's an overview of the Ministry of Education funding and our enrollment projections, our operating revenues, expenditures. The operating expenses is broken out again by function. And then we'll look at our special purpose funds and review the summary of Schedule 2, our operating revenue expenses, and Schedule 2, which is our budget bylaw, which we will be asking the board to consider this evening in 3 readings. So overall, our operating revenues are predominantly from the Ministry of Education. You can see by our graphic here that 90% of our income in the district comes from the Ministry of Education. A small portion of international revenue and Alberta students, some miscellaneous income, including rentals, and some investment income. This is a breakdown of the overall preliminary enrollment. So these enrollment projections were prepared in February, which was, of course, as everyone knows, pre-COVID. So we'll see how the pandemic has impacted those estimated enrollments that were prepared for the ministry in February. So we prepared the budget based on a projected total FTE enrollment of 6,463 students, 0.125. And that translates into overall total ministry funding of $67,548,920. The enrollment-based portion of the funding is $46,704,020. And then you can see the different unique student needs broken down in the various categories that are below. I think one highlight of our ministry revenue this year is the unique geographic factors. So you can see in our amended annual budget, our unique geographic factor funding was 8.8 million. Our preliminary funding in this category is 9.4 million, and this is a positive reflection of some changes in the funding formula that reflect the additional expenses for rural and remote districts. So that has really helped us to be able to present a mostly balanced budget for the board to consider this evening. So this is a little breakdown. So again, you can see the operating grants from the ministry are $67,548,920. So that's the same figure. That was the breakdown of the ministry funding on the previous page. And then in addition, all of the other special grants that we get from the ministry, for example, the transportation funding, the labor settlement, etc. Some of the items like the carbon tax grant has been rolled into the block. A couple of the other smaller grants have been rolled into the block funding. But overall, when all of our potential revenue is considered, the amount comes to $70,504,710. And that is overall a difference from the previous year of $2,439,283, which is positive. The revenue is headed in the right direction. So next, we'll move into our operating expenses. So you can see from the graphic that 84.5% of our operating expenses are salary and benefits, and 15.5% is service and supplies. And the next graphic is just the same information but presented to show you how the salaries portion, the benefits portion, and the service and supplies portion. So overall, the operating expenses are $70,231,413. And you can also see that overall, though the expenses are higher in 2021, the percentages are fairly close to what we saw this year. So salaries, it's about the same percentage, benefits are about the same, and expenses around the same. Just the actual amounts have changed as our enrollment increases. So the ministry takes the same expense information, and in the one schedule on our financial statements and our budgets, they present the expense information by category, so salaries, benefits, etc. And then in this section, Schedule 2C, they present it by function program. So function 1 is instruction, function 4 is district administration, function 5 is operations and maintenance, and function 7 is transportation and housing. So you can see that the district spends 78.53% of its expenses on instruction. 3.74% is spent on district administration. 12.37% is operations and maintenance, and 5.36% is on transportation and housing. And the next slide just is a little bit more of a breakdown around that. And again, you can see from the comparison to our amended budget that the percentages are fairly similar between the years, even though the amounts have increased. Overall, the allocations of the expenses are fairly similar. So the next section of our statements are the special purpose funds. So the special purpose funds are funds that we receive from the ministry or the federal government for specific purposes that we then track and report out on section 3 of the statements. So these items include the capital portion of the annual facility grant, the learning improvement fund, the school generated funds, which is the principal's trust accounts, Strong Start, Ready, Set, Learn, Federal French, Community Links, the classroom enhancement funds we receive, and this, our employee family support, etc. So overall, we generally plan to spend all of the annual, special purpose funds that we receive in the year. So we budget to spend all of the revenue, and additional, some of the funds have a certain reserves that have built up over the years. So we are applying some of the reserves. So you can see overall our spending is planned to be $7,953,256, and the revenue that is attached with that proposed spending is $7,411,175. So we're planning to spend a little bit of reserves to draw down some of those balances in schedule. So lastly, the schedule 2 is a summary. So overall, the total revenue is $70,504,710. Our total expenses are $7,231,413. So that is a net revenue of $273,297. However, we are planning on transferring from operating to capital assets $138,000. So then the difference between our operating revenue and the transferred capital assets will require $164,703 from reserves in the 2021 year to balance the budget to zero. So a small application of reserves in order to transfer to the operating dollars to capital assets in combination with the net revenue brings the budget to be balanced. And then on the last slide, We have the overall preliminary budget bylaw that we are asking the board to consider of $83,084,742. And this is comprised of the total operating expenses from Schedule 2, which are $70,231,413. The total capital assets purchased from Schedule 2, which is $438,000. The special purpose fund expenses from Schedule 3, which are $7,953,256. And the capital fund expenses from Schedule 4, $4,462,073. And again, we didn't go into detail on the capital fund expenses. That's basically our amortization expenses that we report on all of our assets for 2020. And that is the
Are there any questions related to the budget?
Obviously for revenue, we are going a lot on enrollment. And I am aware that nobody knows at this point what this is gonna look like. I guess the only thing that kind of worries me a little bit is we've had this 3-4 weeks of our, well, by the time we're done, we had the 4 weeks of our stage 3 model. The numbers previous said that K-5 was 55% attendance and 6-12 was in the 40%. How worried are we that if we happen to go into stage 3 in the fall, that we're going to lose these kids permanently off our list? I know, just, I mentioned that before, I am rural, so there's a lot of parents from rural that say, well, this is actually kind of neat. My kids are done at noon. I'm not going to send them back to school if this happens again. And I mean, that's going to, I know, it's, you can't, how can you do a budget if you don't know what it's going to look like?
Yeah, and it's a great question, and it's something I think not only are we concerned about, but the entire province of British Columbia. I think as you saw with some of the plans for our district, we've really tried to stay connected as much as we could, and the teachers have done a phenomenal job of that. The other thing I wanted to point out too is that just to sort of get through this spring, the province made the attendance optional. And that was prior to us and the world knowing much at all about the virus. Since March, in February and March, there's been a fair number of developments and further understandings around the science of the pandemic. And it's a unanimous sort of request that school goes back to not being voluntary for the fall. Now, there will certainly be some cases of families who are able to do some homeschooling or distance ed. What I can tell you right now, School District 60 has not yet seen an uptick in their registrations for distance ed or homeschooling. I'm not saying that that won't come, but we're hoping that that combination of back to the mandatory schooling, along with the connections that we've had with the families, will hopefully bring our families back. And just to reiterate, all of our students are welcome back.
Well, I mean, at the same hand, I mean, I saw that the international student enrollment DAD revenue has obviously been projected very low, or a lot lower than before. And who knows? I mean, we could have the other way around as well there too, and all of a sudden we do get them.
It's a great point, and it's why we're looking more at, you know, that possibility in, let's say, February, for example, when particularly around the visa approval process by the federal government, and those two governments are talking right now, provincial and federal, so that they can facilitate that. While it's certainly some of a hit to our district, it's certainly less than the implications for a lot of the districts down south, but it's something we're worried about, and we'll have to see how this next year goes for the international.
So for the annual budget, we're required to prepare the budget based on our February projections. And in the budget cycle, the amended annual budget is updated based on the actual September enrollments. So then we'll adjust our revenue and expenses in the amended annual budget. But we did really consider carefully all of the expenses that are reflected in the budget, and we were very conservative in our revenue projections that we have, and the very conservative with our expenses to making sure that we were, presenting a feasible budget that can be adjusted for what comes in September. We took a lot of the COVID considerations into consideration when we were preparing the budget. We increased our custodial supplies, for example, and other items that we knew were going to be impacted potentially as we go through the fall.
Erin? Well, that just kind of, I guess, I know that the ministry's asked us to keep track of those COVID-related expenses, so I'm guessing that's kind of been flagged in the budget that's going to the ministry.
Yes, the ministry has asked district staff to prepare a summary of the COVID considerations that have been adopted in the budget. So that both with revenue and with expenses, to make certain that districts were really considering the potential impacts that things could have.
Because new cleaning regimes is going to mean more costs.
And the custodians, double shifts, maybe more casuals, we might be needing, etc.
Sort of, which brings me back to kind of previously with the capital plan, those universal washrooms, is that easier to clean because of, this COVID stuff? Yes.
Yes.
I guess one of the things that I have people and have had numerous, questions about, because people maybe don't totally understand how much more we're putting out with cleaning, and we've had some districts that are totally related to COVID-19. They are in a better financial shape because they laid off their employees, they did all kinds of things. We're not, from everything that we've looked at, going to come out way ahead because of COVID-19.
No. So in our district, we had continuity of earnings. So we had that through to the end of April. And then we started the process with having individual conversations with around, so it took the first couple of weeks into May before we really potentially laid off anybody or reduced hours. And then by June 1st, so there was limited savings from salary dollars, and that was not the path that some districts took, and as far as all of their employee groups. So we really wanted to keep our employees whole, so that, and then when we have the additional costs for the cleaning, we hired our Ann Robertson custodians early. So we hired 3 custodians to help out with the enhanced cleaning regimes and making sure that staff were safe and were really following the provincial protocols. So we had significant costs. We will see some savings with diesel when we weren't running the buses for those 2 months, but that's about $50,000. So not significant, but our extra cleaning supplies and some of the other initiatives that we took really almost balanced out those amounts. There will be very minor things that we need to when the financial statements are finished, but with having students back in June, we didn't see significant savings through the end of the year.
I think one of the other things that some districts that are seeing savings did is they shut their buses down, and they did it based on the age of their bus drivers, and they just did not run buses for June. And we didn't do that.
So one other thing, sorry, we are seeing reduced casual and TOC costs for June because we're not doing field trips, etc. So there might be a small amount, but anything that we do see, we will kind of keep in reserve for potential impacts in the fall.
The only other thing I'll add is that we've definitely, with our staff and administrators, looked at if there are some savings in this last 3 weeks of school, that we're putting that out to the schools in the form of the learning support model. So that's the learning services allocations to each of the schools via what we call our education budget. as well as our equity fund. And so any savings, if we do see anything as we finish off the year, will be directed towards that. They will not be held in reserves.
Yes, and that's a really good point, because we knew that potentially the schools wouldn't be able to fully spend their education budget. So we wanted to make sure, normally we would expect them to be fully expended in the year that they were allocated. But with this environment, we are allowing them to carry forward those budgets. So basically those savings will be carried forward to the subsequent
School level.
at the school level for benefit of the students in the fall.
Are there any other questions? David, do you have any questions?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
I did that.
Oh.
It's a mirror function.
Okay.
You can change it.
Nicole?
Okay, if I go to slide, just quickly here,
Sure.
the one that has the pie, salaries and benefits, services and supplies.
Oops. I apologize.
Those two.
So
You
on your
you don't need,
handout?
yeah, you don't need the pie probably to answer this. So obviously I know what salaries and benefits are, services and supplies. So I can figure out what supplies is, but can you give me an example of a service?
So,
Like a contractor?
yes, so that would be like, for example, when we contract physiotherapy services,
Okay.
or when we hire a groundskeeper or something like that, like to take down the trees surrounding.
Contractor, yeah.
Contractor.
Yeah, okay.
Or- yeah.
And then have you guys ever, so then you're looking at the 4 pies of all the operating expense by function. So you have instruction being 78%, and then district admin in the little blue being 3.74. So when you say district admin, you don't mean the whole board office, because a lot of them are instruction, right?
No, that is the board office.
So even like, would Stephen be instruction or district administration?
District administration.
Okay.
And that function 4 also includes the trustees, so governance as well is included in function 4.
Okay.
And the principals and vice principals as
A
well.
portion of principals and vice principals as well. A portion of theirs is allocated to in-school instruction and a portion to district administration. So, and that is less than the provincial average, which is 4%. So,
Yeah, that number just actually seems really small, so I thought it couldn't possibly include all the, because there's teachers at the board office who are just teaching the teachers kind of, so I thought that would go under instruction.
those learning services are in the function 110. So if you flip over to schedule 2C, you can see the different categories that make function 1, function 4, function 5, and function 7. So on your actual handout.
Oh, okay. No,
Page 8,
okay.
Good question though, because our board office the building, as you know, is kind of split into 2.
Yeah.
Everything on that side is all district operations, district administration. On this side here, there are a significant number who would be instruction because they're literacy coaches, numeracy coaches, support staff, those kinds of things, along with a couple of administrators as well. So it's a
Okay.
mix over here, but it's mainly on the other side, this district administration.
Okay. And one more question. So to balance our budget, we're taking $438 from the capital assets. No, we're taking 438,000 from reserves.
No, so the 438 is like every year, for example, when we buy a computer, like a Chrome card of computers, $15,000. That is operating dollars that we consider a transfer to capital assets. So we have to take, overall, the ministry gives us the operating dollars, and then if we buy any stuff with it, we have to record it as capital assets. So that's what we're projecting as our purchase of capital assets out of our operating dollars. So we just want to make sure we record that. So we basically, so the $15,000 for the Chrome cards, we don't record in operating expenses, we record it in capital expenses. It's just a transfer. So it's basically operating dollars, but we're recording it on our financial statements as assets. I know that, I'm sorry,
I know.
and I'm not
But-
explaining it very well.
But so we did have to take, like, we weren't quite balanced. You had to take something from somewhere.
164,000 from reserves. because,
164.
like,
Okay,
if-
that's where
so
my
for
number's wrong,
example,
sorry.
If you look at page Schedule 2.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, okay, I see that, 164,703.
yes, so
Okay, so
if we had only just said we were gonna spend 273,297 in the transfer to capital assets, then we'd have been, our operating revenue and our assets would have balanced to zero. But
Right.
because we're planning to spend 438,000 in assets expenditures, then that's going to require 164,000
Okay,
in
so,
order to bring it to zero at the bottom.
so my question is, after we take that 164, what's our balance of our reserve?
If you look on the previous page, so statement 4, page 4 on the document, you'll be able to see,
I have the wrong thing open, sorry, I got the PowerPoint open and I need to open the,
we will be,
page.
it's not reflected the same way in the budget, but basically, we anticipate we'll have around $2 million left in the reserves after this year and the overall reserve. So the ministry would recommend that we would have about 1.7 million, and we'll have around 2 million in reserves, but then we will also have some money sitting in our overall reserves for the initiatives like the Numeracy Initiative, the MAP Initiative, those literacy initiative, those types of things. So, you know, we'll probably have a little more, we'll definitely have enough.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, I just don't have that.
But nothing compared to where we were 2
No.
years ago, because we were
No.
at 4
Yes.
million.
Yes, 420.
What happens when you keep talking? Now I have a question.
Okay.
Fair enough.
So, but that money for the literacy initiative and the math initiative, that's targeted reserves
Yes.
though, right? So
Yes,
it's not
that's
like free open reserves, like the 1.7, which is what we should have. It's
Yes,
targeted reserves, which is a little different, right?
yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. So the ministry recommends 2 to 3% of our operating expenses as a contingency reserve, which we will have going into.
For floods and things.
Yes. Or enrollment adjustments, etc.
We don't get those folks that, you know, old Fort, we might be, you know, changing to helicopter service.
Well, I don't think the kids from Clearview will be busting it either.
Remote learning continues.
So, I mean,
So as a district or as a board trustee, we have to be cognizant of, so we used a lot of reserves this year. We're using a little tiny bit, but a little next year. So we do need to almost start coming up with a plan to either not balance our budget without using or to generate some more revenue, right? Because we're gonna get to that 1.7 here quickly.
So if you look at Schedule 2 on the, so page 5 of the handout, you can see that last year, we were in what we had been a structural deficit. We were spending more than we were bringing in. So on our operating side, we were almost $600,000 overspent. And then we did the transfer to capital assets of 2.5 million, which required an overall application of reserve of 3.1. So you can see that this budget is a lot more conservative in the transfer to capital assets, and also that it's a good reflection to see that we have a net revenue of 273,000. So that our expenses aren't exceeding our revenues.
Right, so we're on the right track.
For the 2020-21, that is absolutely the case, Nicole, so that we don't run into that.
Yes.
and I mean, I'm relieved to know that we have a little bit of flex funding, because certainly when you look at what we faced this year with bus fires, things like that, the unanticipated does happen. And in spite of putting in a conservative enrollment estimate, we really don't know where we are at for September.
But the other thing too, is important that we knew we had a fairly healthy reserve, and we had planned to initiate the numeracy project and the literacy project. We planned to apply some of those reserves. So even in the 2020 budget, you're seeing the application of some of those dollars. Those were intended. We had
Most of it was intended. to
Yeah,
be
we-
funded.
Yeah, it's not like we had
Yeah,
wasn't a big surprise. We-
yeah, we had
wanted to
intended to
spend
spend
that.
some of that, and then the bus fire and a few other things happen, and it gets a little higher than what you planned, but
At our committee of the whole meeting, you had showed us a snapshot visual.
oh, yes.
I'm hoping that snapshot, once we have,
Yes, I printed it off and I forgot it on the, yes, I put it on the phone.
I have the old one that's not
yeah, but
edited.
I'm hoping that we will have one that.
And we've put that out
updated.
publicly, is my
Yeah,
understanding.
It was on, yes, we had it up on our Facebook page. We got a fair amount of interest with that. And I did, I just printed 4 or 5 copies, so that would be great. And to keep to everyone. I'm sorry.
Mine is just not quite
Yeah.
the corrected version.
Yeah,
Yeah, I just think that document is a really good one
It
to make
is.
sure that we have available to the
I
public.
thought it was included in the office, I apologize.
And then, I know I probably should have said it earlier, but some of the information that we looked at in the encounter meetings that was brought forward around the budget preparation and meetings, I think was really important for you to understand further some of the decisions that went into this. And I know it was an additional staff work piece, but wanted to thank you for that. We can't do anything without our minute takers, so is there any other things that we would like to ask related to the budget and or talk about?
Should have gone to photocopy.
Sorry, I printed it, I just forgot.
That's okay, I guess.
Yeah.
You won't be long.
While we wait for her though, something that was said is something that we should as a board think about. Because this past week, Taylor Hill was closed because Cecil Lake, Hudson's Hope and the Old Park. So that's quite a few of our students, that we, so it's just something that when you said that,
She just gave me heck for saying floods. But I was really thinking of beaver dams.
Oh, yeah, you're in the lagoon though.
All right, Brenda, I'm cognizant of the time and are looking at what we have left. I think if we're not finished by 9 o'clock, we have to have a motion to extend the length of our meeting, don't we?
Or is it 9:30?
4 hours.
It's 4 hours, so
Yes.
we
4 hours.
started at 6:30, so it would be 10:30.
It's 4 hours.
Oh, doesn't count the in-camera.
It doesn't count the in-camera? Okay, then I'm good. I just,
By 10:30,
yeah, no, we're going to be done by 10:30, but I was worried that I had to have her done by 9 and I was.
Helen, do you need a motion to do all 3 readings?
Yeah, that was my next let's let Leah get settled. Could
Yeah.
I have a motion that in accordance with section 68(4) of the School Act, all 3 readings of the amended annual budget bylaw for 2021 will be given in this meeting. Moved by Aaron, seconded by Bill. Calling the question, all in favor? All right, so now do I do the reading, then we adopt? So moving forward, looking at our annual budget bylaw, a bylaw of the Board of Education of School District Number 60, Peace River North, called the board to adopt the annual budget for the board for the fiscal year 2020-21 pursuant to section 113 of the School Act, 1996 C412, as amended from time to time, called the Act. The board has complied with the provisions of the Act respecting the annual budget adopted by this bylaw. This bylaw may be cited as School District Number 60 Peace River North Annual Budget Bylaw for fiscal year 2021. The attached statement 2 showing the estimated revenue and expense for the 2021 fiscal year and the total budget bylaw amount of 83,840,700, never mind. I'm having trouble reading the number and I did not practice it. I'm sorry. For the 2021 fiscal year was prepared in accordance with the Act. Statement 2, 4, and Schedules 2 to 4 are adopted as the annual budget of the board for the fiscal year 2020, 2021. And this is all captured for everyone on live stream. All right, so that is deemed to be our first reading of our bylaw. Can I have a motion to approve that first reading? Aaron, seconded by Madeline. And can I have a motion that the second and third
So we
reading?
have to approve it first.
Oh, sorry, all in favor? Thank you for keeping me on track. So we've done that. So now I have a motion that need a motion that the second and third reading can be done in short form. Ida and Nicole. All right, short form. We're going to adopt the annual budget for the fiscal year 2021 pursuant to section 113 of the School Act. The board has complied with the provisions needed to prepare the annual budget. The bylaw is, we've met the requirements for the annual budget bylaw for the fiscal year. Our attached statement 2 shows the estimated revenue and expense for the 2021 fiscal year. And it was prepared in accordance with the Act. Statement 2, 4, and Schedules 2 to 4 are adopted as the annual budget of the board for the fiscal year 2020-2021. Could I please have a motion for that second reading? Bill, then Ida. All in favor? Moving on to the third reading. Even shorter now. So we're looking at the annual budget bylaw for the fiscal year 2020-2021 pursuant to section 113 of the School Act. The board has complied with the provisions of the Act respecting the annual budget. This bylaw may be cited now as School District Number 60 Peace River North Annual Budget Bylaw for the fiscal year 2020-2021. Our attached statement 2 shows the estimated revenue and expense for the 2020-2021 fiscal year. And statement 2, 4, and Schedules 2 to 4 are adopted as the annual budget of the board for the fiscal year 2020-2021. And I have a motion to accept that Butchie reading bill. Then Aaron, all in favor?
Things are getting much better, but
Right. Moving on, unfinished business. I don't think we have any. New business. Bill,
that's what I was going to talk about earlier with the sports council.
okay.
Two things here. One, first, the bad case one. I just let them a reminder to our group that we have about our school facilities, gymnasiums, etc., that they are still closed and will remain closed until further notice. Just make sure they have the heads up for come fall if needed. Okay. And the other thing is myself, I'm getting involved through the sports organization with kids sport. So my role is going to be with the schools, with the middle schools and the high schools for any of that students that financially can't afford to take part into the sports.
School sports or other?
My role is going to be with the school sports.
Okay.
So if a student can't afford to play
Yeah.
on the school team, okay, it's going to be giving funding for them, which there is a surplus kind of thing. So we can find them funding. We just have to identify them and then give them and their parents to sign off. Okay, so, and it's, It can be both. Okay, so the Hudson's Hope, the Presbyterian, the middle schools, okay, it's those that have the higher expenses kind of thing. With the elementaries, they really won't pay because it's a $40 fee or except, little ones. It's a good thing.
Michelle,
Sure.
are you still awake over there?
I know Matt's yawning and.
It was the whole budget
thing. Oh, I tell ya, what a night.
The budget's exciting. Come on.
There's a reason most of us aren't accountants.
It's like they go on and on and on and on.
What is with you?
All good, it's all good. So I just have a question about this. Is our case, we're Together We Learn, I know we have Together We Learn, one learning community. Where is this, like, where did that come from?
Oh, we added without ever reaching
Victoria, no,
It might have just been this was a template, right? So maybe we just haven't corrected.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
And it needs a
I
space, if you're
apologize.
going to use it, it needs a space after the
You
explanation.
will fix it. Thanks for pointing
Is
that
that
out.
it? Are we one learning community or what?
No,
No,
you're
it's
right.
not
That's a
supposed to be
mistake.
it.
Okay, because I'm like, I'm sure I've seen everything Together We Learn. I've never seen what, I thought maybe you slipped something in, then
It's a
there's a.
typo.
No,
we
We
Okay.
rebranded this one.
I know, I was like, whoa, okay,
No, good, thank you.
okay. I was gonna,
Because I can't say anything at the committee of the whole meeting. I would have said something then.
oh, you noticed it then?
Yes.
why didn't you pull somebody? That's okay.
No, because I left. You guys don't
Oh,
want me
right.
here, so.
Because we were talking about the budget.
Yeah. Nobody asked me. I didn't get this as a FYI. Just saying.
And in the minute,
I had-
there's
You know what, I've got like great eyesight most of the time. Seriously though, I think what teachers and admin and district staff have done the past 3 months has been, incredible. And what has happened in June to go from the online, from going online, working in class to going online to now doing what we did in June is incredible. The grad, unbelievable. I watched it. It was unbelievable. I do, going to Hudson's Hope, I'm sure it'll be so meaningful to those students as well and the families. And I think this was, you know what, when you talk about taking a negative thing and making something really positive, I just feel that's what has happened in Peace River North. People have remained positive and have worked really hard. There have been a few hiccups, I know that, with anything, but I think that working together and collaborating and being involved, we can make things happen and, work, do good things for kids. I think that's why we're all in this room, to be honest with you. And I just want to wish everybody a good summer. And we'll see you at the end of August. I think I'll be here. I'm not sure, but I'll be here, but I'm not sure if I'll come to the meeting.
It's a committee meeting.
Well, there's a board meeting.
No, it's okay.
Oh, come on, Erin. I know committee of the whole meeting. Do you know how hard it is for me to sit there and keep my mouth shut?
Oh, it must be. I couldn't.
I think I
wouldn't come.
I text Steven or I even
Bring
it
it
like just, during the meeting. So there you go. But seriously, have a great summer. And I do wish that everybody will remain healthy and safe as well. So that's all I have.
Thank you,
Thank
Michelle, for your work too with us as a district, because, you're half the equation really here. Well, a third, because we have kids.
I know. Seriously, I know, like, we have worked very well together. I think everybody has been really trying their very best. And I certainly appreciate Maureen and her leadership as well.
I've heard some horror stories from around the province, so.
I have as well.
I
And
appreciate it.
we can be very thankful. I'm looking at you, Stephen. We can be very thankful. Hiccup or two, you know what? We can deal with that.
sinkholes, we can't.
No, no more 2 inches of rain. That's all.
How's the busing?
So Maureen.
Speaking of sinkholes.
Before I put on my president's hat, I am gonna put on my bus driver's hat, even though I actually only drove physically 3.5 days this month. I have to give a huge shout out to my kids. They were awesome. You know, they're just thrown into this pandemic. Everything is completely turned upside down. They're getting on a bus and they can't sit with their friends. They can't sit in their normal place. And, you know, they're rock stars. So I was pretty impressed. Got some pretty good kids. I have to echo Michelle again.
Maybe flip next year. Put
Yeah, maybe
Kiki
we can
first.
flip.
Yeah.
I like when she goes first. What did you say? I gotta work with
I know,
that.
I never know until it comes out of my mouth, yeah.
But I really have appreciated the chance to collaborate. You know, obviously, as you say, there's been some hiccups and we don't always agree on things, but there's been a mutual respect. And as you said, that hasn't been the case in a lot of districts. Appreciate the fact that the district has worked so hard to keep our members employed and been able to think outside the box and try to make things work. And I ran my first Zoom meeting on Thursday and I didn't screw it up too badly. Brenda's laughing. She heard me whining about it. Had to run elections, so it was a little scary, but we got through it. So I guess that's one of the silver linings to this pandemic cloud is learning to use some of these new technologies. Pretty cool. And I hope you all have a wonderful summer. I know I'm planning to.
So does that mean that you're elected?
I wasn't up for
Oh,
election.
you weren't, okay.
No.
I haven't.
Vice president, chief shop steward, membership officer, and several shop stewards. So. Next year. Maybe somebody will run against me. Because everybody likes this kind of stress.
All right, questions from the press and the public?
Nothing for me tonight, just wanted to make a end of school year appearance.
We know you're out there and we do appreciate your support.
But yeah, have a great summer, I'm sure. We'll be talking before September, whatever the education minister decides to do.
And I now get a motion to bring our in-camera motions forward for implementation. Bill, Aaron. All in favor?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I second. We are adjourned. All in favor? Sorry, Terry, we're adjourned. I have to go on bended knee. Hi, David. Bye, David.